friends, my name is Catherine and welcome to Storytime. Let's start with our welcome song. Welcome, 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 welcome. How are you? How are you? Very well, thank you. Very well, thank you. How about you? How about you? Welcome, friends. Let's begin with another song. Why don't we sing Old MacDonald? Okay, here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on this farm he had a dog, E-I-E-I-O. With a ruff, ruff here and a ruff, ruff there. Here ruff, there ruff, everywhere ruff, ruff. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on this farm he had a cat, E-I-E-I-O. With a meow meow here and a meow meow there. Here a meow, there a meow, everywhere a meow meow. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. And on this farm he had a sheep, E-I-E-I-O. With a baba here and a baba there. Here a ba, there a ba, everywhere a baba. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O. Thank you for singing with me, friends. Why don't we read the first story of the day? And this one is also about a farmer. It's called The Farmer by Chimo Abadia. In the village, everyone is resting. Everyone? Not Paul. Paul mows. Paul rakes. Paul digs. Paul draws water. Until he is exhausted. Every day, Paul watches, inspects, checks. Finally, everything begins to grow. Then, everything becomes dry. There's not one drop of water for Paul's plants. Paul despairs. But Paul is not alone. And his friend the rain is never truly far away. The end. I hope you enjoyed that story. Now, in this book, the farmer needed a few things to help him grow his crops. He relied on sunshine, rain, and time. He needed to wait for those plants to grow. So why don't we try growing something in Storytime together? We have a little seed, which we can plant right here. And let's give it some sunshine. And everybody give it some rain. Very good. And give it a little time. And let's see our little seed. It grows a teeny tiny little sprout. There it goes. Now let's give it a little more sunshine. rain, and some thyme. And then our sprout will grow more leaves. Look at our plant growing. Let's give it more sunshine, rain, and thyme. And then our little plant will grow some beautiful flowers. Look at that, you helped. Let's give it some more sunshine, rain, and thyme. And those flowers will grow into beautiful, delicious fruits. Look at that, my friends. You helped grow this together. So why don't we read one more story for today? This one is also about a little girl and her mother growing things together. It's called The Ugly Vegetables.
By Grace Lynn. In the spring, I helped my mother start our garden. We used tall shovels to turn the grass upside down, and I saw pink worms wriggle around. It was hard work. When we stopped to rest, we saw that the neighbors were starting their gardens too.
Hello, Irma.
My mother called to Mrs. Crewmarin. Mrs. Crewmarin was digging too. She was using a small shovel, one that fit in her hand. "Mommy," I asked, "why are we using such big shovels? Mrs. Crewmarin has a small one."
Because our garden needs more digging,
she said. I helped my mother plant the seeds, and we dragged the hose to the garden. "Hi, Linda. Hi, Mickey," I called to the Fitzgeralds. They were sprinkling water on their garden with green watering cans. "Mommy," I asked, "why are we using a hose? Linda and Mickey use watering cans."
because our garden needs more water,
she said. Then my mother drew funny pictures on pieces of paper, and I stuck them into the garden.
Hello, Roseanne.
My mother called across the street to Mrs. Angel Howe. "Mommy," I asked, "why are we sticking these papers in the garden? Mrs. Angel Howe has seed packages in her garden."
Because our garden is going to grow Chinese vegetables,
she told me.
These are the names of the vegetables in Chinese, so I can tell which plants are growing where.
One day, I saw our garden growing. Little green stems that looked like grass had popped out from the ground. "Our garden's growing!" I yelled. "Our garden's growing!" I rushed over to the neighbors' gardens to see if theirs had grown too. Their plant looked like little leaves. "Mommy," I asked, "why do our plants look like grass? The neighbors' plants look different."
Because they are growing flowers,
she said. "Why can't we grow flowers?" I asked.
These are better than flowers,
she said. Soon all the neighbors' gardens were blooming. Up and down the street grew rainbows of flowers. The wind always smelled sweet, and butterflies and bees flew everywhere. Everyone's garden was beautiful, except for ours. Our garden was all dark and green and ugly. "Why didn't we grow flowers?" I asked again.
These are better than flowers,
Mommy said again. I looked, but I saw only black, purple, green vines, fuzzy, wrinkled leaves, prickly stems, and a few little yellow flowers. "I don't think so," I said.
You wait and see,
Mommy said. Before long, our vegetables grew. Some were big and lumpy, some were thin and green and covered with bumps. Some were just plain icky yellow. They were ugly vegetables. Sometimes I would go over to the neighbors and look at their pretty gardens. They would show the poppies and peonies and petunias to me, and I would feel sad that our garden wasn't nice. One day, my mother and I picked the vegetables from the garden. We filled a whole wheelbarrow full of them. We wheeled them into the kitchen. My mother washed them, took a big knife, and started to chop them.
"Ay-yow,"
she said. When she cut them, she had to use all her muscles. The vegetables were hard and tough.
"This is xiaohonggua,"
Mommy said, handing me a bumpy curled vegetable. She pointed at the other vegetables.
"This is shensai. That's a tenghao."
I went outside to play. While I was playing catch with Mickey, a magical aroma filled the air. I saw the neighbors standing on their porches with their eyes closed and smelling the sky. They took deep breaths of air, like they were trying to eat the smell. The wind carried it up and down the street. Even the bees, the butterflies seemed to smell the scent in the breeze. I smelled it too. It made me hungry, and it was coming from my house. When I followed the smell to my house, my mother was putting a big bowl of soup on the table. The soup was yellow, red, and green and pink.
This is a special soup,
Mommy said, and she smiled. She gave me a small bowl full of it, and it tasted it. It was so good! The flavors of soup seemed to dance in my mouth and laugh all the way down to my stomach. I smiled.
Do you like it?
Mommy asked me. I nodded and held my bowl out for some more.
It's made from our vegetables,
she told me. The doorbell rang, and we ran to open the door. All our neighbors were standing at the door, holding flowers.
We noticed you were cooking.
Mr. Fitzgerald laughed as he held out his flowers.
We thought maybe you might be interested in a trade.
We laughed too. And my mother gave each of them their own bowl of her special soup. My mother told them what each vegetable was and how she grew it. She gave them the soup recipe and put some soup in jars for them to take home. I ate 5 bowls of soup. It was the best dinner ever. The next spring, when my mother was starting her garden, we planted some flowers next to the Chinese vegetables. Mrs. Marin and the Fitzgeralds and the Andrews planted some Chinese vegetables next to their flowers. Soon the whole neighborhood was growing Chinese vegetables in their gardens. Up and down the street, little green plants poked out of the ground. Some looked like leaves and some looked like grass. And when the flowers started blooming, you could smell the soup in the air.
The end. Thank you to our guest reader, Myra. I hope you enjoyed that story. So we've come to the end of story time, so let's sing our farewell song. We wave goodbye like this. We wave goodbye like this. We clap our hands for all our friends. We wave goodbye like this. Thank you for coming, friends, and I'll see you next time.